There have been many tremendous advances in technology over the last decade. So many, in fact, the pace is accelerating. Every day, new things are discovered with our ever-increasing scientific knowledge. Technology has also brought us closer together. Communicating with each other is instantaneous. We have all become accustomed to the advantages that science has brought us. Today's modern world would simply be unimaginable without continuing progress. Architecture is being influenced by modern technology, and many new methods, techniques and processes have been introduced in the respective field over the last few decades. Architecture has a great importance, as constructing minor to huge structures is impossible without proper application of architectural concepts. The kind of architecture and designs that are practiced today are quite different from those practiced few centuries ago. With the increasing complexity of buildings, new engineering techniques and technology are employed. Architecture has become more multidisciplinary. It needs a team of professionals to execute the designs properly. In the last 2 decades, architecture has seen an increase in specialised techniques, project delivery and technological expertise. Architecture is basically a combination of science and art in the construction of buildings and the design of different physical structures for human use. A wider definition of architecture includes the design of a constructed environment as a whole. From the macro level of how a building matches with its environmental contexts, like urban design, town planning and landscape architecture, to the micro level of physical construction of architectural details and sometimes hardware and furniture. Advancements in building materials together with design have a major impact on a building's earthquake safety. Earthquakes occur in many parts of the world, sometimes with great regularity. The magnitude of an earthquake is measured by the Richter seismic scale, while the severity of an earthquake is measured in terms of damage and lives lost. The damage and casualties are related to more the strength of the tremor, but also to population density and the quality of building construction. Earthquake proofing for buildings is an essential issue in geologically unstable areas and will prevent or reduce the loss of human lives in the process. Less rigidity in buildings and a combination of flexing and tensile strength allows for more resistance to earthquakes. Lightness of the building material reduces likelihood of injuries or of people becoming trapped if the building does collapse. The most crucial parts of the house that need to be light or shockproof are the roof. The walls themselves can also be made shockproof with new structures. Modern architecture is influenced by the requirement to control greenhouse gas emissions by using solar panels, insulation, and the direction of the sun's path to maximise sun energy. Modern architecture is generally distinguished by an implementation of the belief that the resources available and practical necessities establish the effects that are produced by architecture. One of the imminent architectural fashions arising today is using construction materials such that the buildings can be sustained. Sustainable buildings incorporate the materials that are environmentally friendly. Designers focus on buildings that address the environmental concerns of the modern world. Human beings spend approximately 70% of their time in buildings on average. Therefore, even a little enhancement in efficiency can transform into substantial energy savings and environmental value. Architectural designs endeavour to incorporate solar heating and cooling in the building by a proper selection of the building direction, taking the sun path into account. Other architectural features that are considered are an excellent insulation and roofs designed to absorb rainwater instead of challenging city drainage systems. Additional future architectural fashions may incorporate agriculture into urban environments for interior or vertical farming. As former CEO and co-founder of Apple, Steve Jobs helped create products and technology that transform the way we consume music, TV, movies, and books. A creative visionary, Jobs' innovations such as the iPod and its counterpart, the online iTunes Store, revolutionized the industry and how music was distributed and purchased. Apple introduced iTunes in 2001, a few months before it would release the now ubiquitous iPod. At the time, it was not a music store, but a rip-and-burn library service only available for Mac users. It initially was viewed with great skepticism by record companies for its ability to make digital copies of music, something the industry thought would lead to piracy. When Apple rolled out iTunes for the masses in early 2003, the music industry was at a point of transition and chaos. Entering the new millennium, albums were enjoying blockbuster sales of several million units for its superstar artists, and profits were booming. Yet the threat of Napster and other forms of illegal downloading threatened to eviscerate these profits, as many music fans were starting to get used to the idea that music, and loads of it, could be free. Apple's iTunes entered into that landscape with a concept that wasn't exactly new. Yet iTunes, with its simple interface, its simple concept, 99 US cents per song, and revolutionary MP3 device, the iPod, made it the golden standard. The entry of Apple and its leader Steve Jobs into the music world was more than a success, it was a phenomenon. iTunes has redefined the listening experience and has largely become the way that music is consumed. When kids play after school, they aren't always in the same place together. Advances in video game systems and computer games allow game players to play against one another via the internet. Players can don headsets to have multi-party conversations while they play, creating a virtual group experience while in reality each player is alone. Some educators, scholars and scientists have expressed concerns about the effects of communication technologies. Students and professors of the Janus Project wrote a series of essays in 2009 highlighting the social, moral and ethical impacts of modern communication changes. They worry that heavy use of electronic communications, such as email, social networking, texting, instant messaging, and networked video games, has diminished kids' and adults' social skills. The advent of social networking sites and platforms such as Facebook, MySpace, Twitter and LinkedIn changed not only interpersonal communications but also marketing and business strategies. Through social networks, we stay connected to family and everyday friends and often reunite with long-lost friends from childhood, high school and college. Social networking also allows people to share their daily lives and thoughts with one another through outbound messages and walls that signal all of their connections. Although some use social networking sites for limited communication, others spend large periods of their day communicating with contacts through both computer and mobile social networking interfaces. From the wheel to the supersonic jet, humanity has made leaps and bounds in transportation. Many people today take for granted the very means of travel available to them. Environmental design is an emerging topic in railroad technology. New low-impact electric and hybrid trains reduce overall carbon emissions. Train manufacturers have started utilising hydrogen technology for propulsion, with carbon emissions only coming from the manufacturing of the hydrogen itself. Electric trains have always had no carbon emissions because they are run entirely by internal electric motors. However, the means of generating the electricity used to power these motors was predominantly by burning fossil fuels or coal, both of which produce a large amount of carbon emissions. With the emergence of clean energy generation, electrical trains actually run with very low environmental impact. Electric vehicles and low-emission cars like the VW Blue Motion or the hybrid Toyota Prius are often labelled green cars and hailed as a technological solution to the environmental problems associated with automobiles today. Provided they run on electricity generated from renewables, electric cars do go some way toward addressing the issues of oil dependency and greenhouse gas emissions, as well as air and noise pollution from cars idling around densely populated cities. But if they run on energy generated from coal-fired power, then they merely transfer pollution from cities to rural locations and do nothing to reduce emissions. Even if they are run on renewables, the promise of green cars certainly does not address many of the more fundamental environmental, economic and social concerns associated with cars. Even if engineers were able to produce a completely green car, one that doesn't pollute at any stage of its life cycle, it would be an ineffective technological fix. In most cities, it's the sheer number of cars on city roads which provides the greatest challenge to making our cities livable. Rather than a solely technological solution focused on energy and emissions, behavioural and cultural change is necessary. This would see more emphasis on decreasing automobile dependence. In future, we should look at the way we use cars rather than just focusing on the energy they use. Aviation is one of the major transforming technologies of the modern world. In 2011, the European Commission, in close coordination with Airbus, leading European airlines and key European biofuel producers, had launched an exciting new industry-wide initiative to speed up the commercialisation of aviation biofuels in Europe. The European Advanced Biofuels Flight Path Initiative is a roadmap with clear milestones to achieve an annual production of 2 million tonnes of sustainably produced biofuel for aviation by 2020. The Biofuels Flight Path is a shared and voluntary commitment by its members to support and promote the production, storage and distribution of sustainably produced drop-in biofuels for use in aviation. It also targets establishing appropriate financial mechanisms to support the construction of industrial, first-of-a-kind advanced biofuel production plants. The US Centennial of Flight Commission was established in 1999 to encourage the broadest national and international participation in the celebration of 100 years of powered flight. It publicised and encouraged a number of programs, projects and events intended to educate people about the history of aviation.
With the end of the oil era approaching and climate change progressing faster than most models have been predicting, the utilisation of space is essential not only for communications, but also for the logistics of survival through things such as weather satellites, agricultural monitoring, GPS, and climate science.
The future of space travel will probably have many different faces and will be guided by many different individuals and companies. For more than 40 years, space travel has been exclusively dominated by national governments. The problem is that a cheaper method of getting into space has not emerged. This has started to change as private entrepreneurs are starting to invest in private spacecraft and looking to expand access to space to the masses. The venture that is furthest along is Richard Branson's Virgin Galactica. This is a venture that has managed to make a private craft that can escape the Earth's atmosphere. If the trend continues, the following decades can see space travel become as affordable as taking a commercial aeroplane flight. As the decade unfolds, huge strides are expected in combating heart disease, cancer, and a host of other sicknesses that plague humanity. Biotech research holds great promise to correct many human flaws, including vulnerability to disease and telltale signs of aging. Using stem cells and genetic engineering techniques, scientists are learning to regrow damaged organs, muscles, and bones to rejuvenate damaged and aging bodies. New home monitoring systems designed to keep patients out of the hospital and get them more involved in managing their own health will revolutionise tomorrow's medical care. Improved electronic record keeping and groundbreaking innovative medical equipment also promise a bright outlook for healthcare. Futurists predict by 2020, most doctor visits will not require a personal appearance. Consultation will take place via smartphones, rarely requiring physical face-to-face visits to a physician's office. Doctors will text recommendations for diet, physical activities, and other healthcare advice directly to patients. Throughout history, advances in information and communication technologies, energy and transportation technologies, biotechnology and life sciences, agriculture and industry, weapons technologies, and other scientific technical fields have all played important roles in driving changes in the ways that men and women conduct their affairs. Given the magnitude of change that the revolution in science and technology has potential to induce, it is vitally important that we understand how this revolution has changed, is changing, and will continue to change our world. Man is a fortunate species. Over thousands of years, our intelligence has given us tools and technology, art and science, society and civilization. We now possess a treasure house of man's great achievements.